Georgia Tolley here from the Agenda programme, and as you can see, I have been joined by two rather brilliant guests. They are, as they appear, they are astronauts, and they have recently returned from a Blue Origin flight. I am very, very lucky to be joined by Austin Litteral and Dr. Gretchen Green. Thank you very much to both of you. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I say that you've both recently returned from Blue Origin flights to space. When I say recently, I mean in the last year or so. Austin, when did you travel?
My flight was in November of 2024, so I'm coming up on the 1-year anniversary shortly.
Whereas, Dr. Green, you're more recent, aren't you?
135 days ago.
Oh my goodness, now that's relevant.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, you know exactly.
I do, from May 31st, 2025.
Okay, that in itself is really interesting because it gives us a little bit of a sense of how big a deal it's been for both of you in both of your lives. Can you tell me a little bit about how you ended up getting to go to space? Austin, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I first came to the realization that people can fly to space when I saw some of the headlines. Jeff Bezos went with his brother in the first flight. They had William Shatner flying, Michael Strahan. These are the types of people that make the headlines, and great marketing from Blue. I never thought that I would have the opportunity to go, but when the opportunity presented itself, it was one of those decisions of go or don't go, and
there was only one answer for you
you
by the
can't
looks
say
of
no.
it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And it was very much seen as an opportunity for you.
Oh,
how did it
absolutely.
come about? Like, did you get in touch with them? Did you say, I've always wanted to go to space?
Yeah, so I grew up wanting to go to space. My uncle's a NASA engineer and then moved into private space companies later in his career. So I grew up with rocket shuttle launches on my walls in my bedroom. It was always something that I wanted to do, but the glasses aren't for show. I never really qualified for being a fighter pilot, the more traditional NASA path. I actually won a giveaway and got my seat.
Oh my
that way,
goodness.
yeah.
Are they still doing that? Can we want to give away? Okay, what an amazing experience.
Yeah.
What an amazing prize. What an amazing sort of moment in your life.
Sure.
Dr. Green, a similar experience for you or not?
For me, it was also a childhood dream, but it was my second childhood dream. I had always wanted to be a doctor from age 2 onward. And like Austin, I also had space shuttle, astronaut posters on my walls then growing up. I actually brought one of them to Astronaut Village and had it up in my trailer during training, which was lots of fun. So for me, my mom signed me up for space camp when I was 11. And then that year, the Challenger accident occurred. So being age 12 at that point, but watching people like Krista McAuliffe, who finally broke the mold of what I had earlier grown up seeing astronauts look like, 35-year-old white male fighter pilots, that mold, and then seeing that other people, including teachers, could do this, started to make it feel a little more possible, even though I also wore glasses and I was too short to qualify for the shuttle program. But I had this dream, and the details, became distant as the years went on, and I became active with the space camp leadership, continued building that community to encourage STEM education, and especially women and girls in science, and watched as the commercial development of the space program really took off in 2021, both with the Inspiration 4 launch and also with the Blue Origin launch. And that opened up a whole new era. So building that community, maintaining my service to helping others, bring them along for the journey, no matter if I got to go or not. And then finding the right people that connected those dots for me to get this opportunity with Blue Origin is what made it possible.
It is remarkable to hear there about how you both considered it as a professional option. As a child, you wanted to go, but ultimately at that stage, the sort of physical limitations there. I mean, it was just very, very strict as to what you have, how you have to be, what you have to look like, your skill set in order to be able to go to space. And that has obviously, to a certain extent, disappeared now thanks to these commercial space flights. How did you prepare? You mentioned there a little bit about Astronaut Village. That sounds like a very sort of solid place to you. Like, it sounds like something out of space science fiction to me.
Yes, well, that's where you go for about 3 days for Blue Origin to train. You live at Astronaut Village, and then you train at the Astronaut Training Center, where you do much like I did when I was a crew trainer at Space Camp. I used to go and teach kids how to launch and fly the space shuttle. And so similarly, you do simulated missions. You learn about the science and the technology behind the craft, and ultimately prepare for that launch day experience.
What does that sort of preparation look like, Austin? The idea of, do you need to learn certain things? Do you do experiments when you're up there? What do you need to know to go up in a Blue Origin space rocket?
Yeah, so I would say that everybody's experience is a little bit unique. For me, leading up to getting to Astronaut Village, it was a lot of physical preparation, mental preparation, and then getting there, you're kind of swept into the culture that is there, and the intelligent, kind, passionate, hardworking, mission-driven people that are surrounding you. Those few days of all the simulations and running through all the scenarios is probably the coolest couple days that you'll have. And then nestled in there, they strap you into a rocket and launch you off the planet.
Send you off into space.
And send you off into space. That's exactly right.
I mean, it sounds, the way you're both describing it, it sounds much more than a commercial transaction, much more than a commercial experience. I mean, obviously, in the context of you winning the prize, it wasn't. But the way you're talking about it is as it's almost as a humbling experience, and the sense of community, which is quite unexpected for me. Do you feel like you're part of a sort of Blue Origin club now in some ways?
Absolutely. And, my crew deemed ourselves pathfinders because we all had different paths that had led us to space, but also some similarities with entrepreneurship, exploration, travel, and education. And there's no question that we all come to this from different paths, but we find those common threads and things that unite us as people who want to make a difference in the world. And I'm so glad that you brought that up about this difference between being space tourists or passengers. Everyone is an active participant in this, not only because of the preparation. No one decided last Thursday that they wanted to go do this. For many of us, this was a lifelong dream. And a lot of thought and a lot of different preparation goes into it that looks different from the traditional government roles and that route. But is, I think, even more important now as we see the evolution of exploration of space. We will need so many different skill sets to extend that road to space and make that a new path. And so we all continue to be in touch together and just even build on that experience even after the mission does not end at reentry.
Well, I was going to say, I kind of forgot that, of course, you are part of a team when you go up there. How many people traveled up with you, Austin?
Yeah, 6 in our crew.
Okay, and do you still feel like, those people have gone through an experience with you? Will you always remember them? And
Oh,
you're in touch?
absolutely. Yeah. I'm in touch with one of my crew members probably on, I don't want to say a daily basis, but at least 5 days a week. And others, it's more periodic, and 3 of them are here in Dubai. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's nice to see the familiar faces, and it is a shared experience. It's one of the most profound moments of your entire life, and you get to spend it with a very select group of people. It's incredibly small.
This is all so interesting for me. I suppose to a certain extent, when you go on holiday with a group of people, or for, a destination wedding, you always end up feeling pretty close to them. And like you say, you've been through an even more sort of, an even bigger trip. You've gone even further away. So it's not surprising that it does create that closeness. There is sometimes some criticism of what's being sort of described as space tourism. And the only criticism really that people can come up with is, first of all, there's often a bit of jealousy that, they can't afford it yet, or, you haven't been able to pay for it. And then the second criticism is that it's somehow bad for the environment. Was that ever a consideration for either of you?
Not for me. I'm a firm believer in the community aspect of this, that it's a journey for one, that's a journey for all. And so it would, again, the active component of that makes the difference, I think, in how I perceive the experience. And that's why I continue to share this with people throughout the world, is to help bring everyone along for that journey. But as for the environmental impact, number one, this is something that gives people a tremendous appreciation for the fragility of Earth and the importance of conserving our planet, which is our home. And that's a unique perspective you get from space looking down at the planet. And the wonderful thing about Blue Origin is that attention to the ecological impact, in that the rocket is 99% reusable and produces water vapor. So there's probably a larger carbon footprint by far getting to the rocket than actually traveling on the rocket to space and back.
That is fascinating. I think a lot of people don't really realize that it uses hydrogen to rocket itself into the atmosphere. Austin, was it a consideration for you? Did you have any concerns about your trip?
I didn't have real concerns about the trip, and I think there's a fallacy built into some of the criticism around the cost of space, or the investment that some governments make in space, and almost as if we're taking the money and launching it off the planet, and we're just not. What we're doing is cultivating this technology that is foundational for the next generation and the generations following. What we're doing is giving very educated, intelligent people an opportunity to perfect their craft, which will then go out into, other industries and cultivate developments in those industries. So I don't think that we can spend enough in space in general, just because of the type of work that's being done there and the breakthroughs that are happening.
We have a pretty well-developed space sector here in the UAE. We have an astronaut program. There's lots of probes that they're sending up to Mars as well. And so there are a lot of conversations here about the validity of that space program and the levels to which it has actually added to the economy here, the knowledge economy here in the UAE. Never mind how inspiring it is as well. And obviously you guys are very much part of that picture. Let's get to that moment when it was the morning of your space trip and you're walking towards the rocket. How did that feel?
I don't think I've ever felt more alive in those moments. It wasn't fear. It was just this ultra awareness of time, and that moment was, I get choked up just even talking about it and thinking about it. Every time I think about the experience, I just get that surge of emotion from being there with my crewmates, strapped in, hearing the countdown. You would think every second of the countdown would be an eternity. For me, again, 40 years of working towards this and realizing that in that moment it was happening. So the launch itself was very surprisingly smooth, like being on a really fast elevator in a skyscraper, just going straight up and watching the sky turn to black, that I've, of course, never seen before, even on a high airplane ride, and then experiencing that moment where we got to space and got to float in zero gravity for 3 minutes was just the most fulfilling moments of my life.
Oh, wow. But even as you describe it there, if I was strapped in, I think I would feel nervous. Did you have any nerves at all?
So I expected it to be the most terrifying 40 minutes of counting down that I'd ever experienced, but it really wasn't. I woke up that morning and every cell in my body was vibrating with energy, and there is this alertness that happens. But it isn't the fear or nervousness. I think I was more nervous getting on the plane to fly to Texas than I was to strap in on the day of the launch. It's this anticipation that you're feeling that is just pure excitement. Time does not work correctly on the day of the launch. 40 minutes goes by in a flash, and then the 7 seconds after the countdown, the entire capsule engulfs in a red-orange glow before you build enough thrust to actually get liftoff. And that 7 seconds feels like an eternity. And then all of a sudden it's 2.5 minutes straight up and out, which is an incredible experience.
And then do you just unbuckle yourself? There's a point where you're told you can unbuckle yourself and float around.
So once the capsule separates from the booster, you're able to unbuckle and get out and float around. And if you haven't experienced zero Gs before, that would be the first time you're floating in space.
And like, can you do somersaults?
You can.
What's it like?
Sure, yeah. You can do somersaults. The real best use of time for me, I think, was staring out the window, and you see this infinite, utter darkness, unlike anything that you've experienced on our Earth, and it's really awe-inducing in the traditional sense of the word. Profound, fear-inducing darkness, and then you look down, and it's the glow of the Earth. And it's everything that you had ever loved and everyone that you will ever love. It comes from this single place and you're not there. And it's an incredibly humbling experience.
I mean, that's the challenge, isn't it? You've got those 3 minutes. How do you use it? Like, and it must be different for every personality. For you, it was looking out the window. For other people, maybe it's the physical dimension of it. What was it for you?
It's interesting. A lot of people ask, is 3 minutes enough?
Yes. Yeah, I would be.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was a matter of seconds. It was almost instantaneously transforming. Because the first thing, we all had a plan. We had choreographed it, practiced it a lot. And the first thing I did was look out the window. And for me, it was like looking at Neapolitan ice cream. You see the blackness of space, the thin line of the horizon, and then the Earth. But not one of those things caught my attention more than the other. I saw it as a whole. And it looked completely familiar to me. So much so that I think one of my first thoughts was, this looks exactly like the pictures. What a ridiculous thought to have. As I'm seeing this for the first time, a view that, for me, being the 102nd woman above the Kármán line in human history, to think. And then I thought, no, that's because it's very familiar.
Yeah.
I have been looking at these pictures my whole life, just dreaming about what it would look like. And it does look just like that. And that feeling of utter contentment, and for me, validation, that was exactly where I was supposed to be at that time, doing exactly what I had trained and worked for my whole life. That was just an enveloping positive feeling. But what was surprising then was I actually turned away from the window because I really wanted to know what my crewmates were doing. So I found myself turning away from the view to look at all of them around the capsule. There are 6 windows, one for each person, and they're very tall. So when I did that, I was checking in on my crew, just seeing how is everyone doing. And I guess as a physician, that's very normal and natural for me to be aware of the team and how we're doing. But I also got a view that I didn't anticipate, which was of the Earth and its curvature through everyone's windows. And so that was almost a panoramic view that I couldn't have gotten if I was just looking out my own window myself.
I mean, it is remarkable how clearly massive an impact this has had on both of you. You're I didn't know if you were poetic before this experience, but you're pretty poetic now about the whole vibe of it. Has the experience changed you, do you think?
Absolutely. I think it's a brand new perspective on life. Looking down on the Earth, I realized how long the cosmic timeline is and how short the human experience is. In that sense, it has inspired me to be much more open to all the possibilities that life has in store for me. I would say that the walks in nature are more serene. The waves crashing on the beach are more powerful. The relationships that I cultivate are more meaningful. It has completely shifted my perspective in every aspect of life. Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. I've heard actual astronauts who have trained in NASA's program. I've never heard anyone speak as eloquently as that about how strongly it affects you. Like, we hear often about the effects of going up to space on astronauts, but I've never really processed it in that way. That's really interesting to hear. Dr. Green, how about the experiences? How has it affected you going? Obviously, you have a very strong instinct to teach and share your experiences.
That's true. And it's one of the ways I prepared was I immediately started making PowerPoint presentations, which is as much as a way of kind of inventorying the photos of my life that I felt had been my own personal kind of biography leading up to it and the things that inspired me and made me who I am, but that I could share it. So that is literally as soon as I got back, I immediately went to a space conference and gave a talk to share the experience. And for me, that I'm so grateful for it and for the opportunity. I'm so aware of the rarity of this experience. And even yesterday, we were at the Museum of the Future, and we saw so many school groups come through of girls in schools who were coming to see the museum. And for me, the magic moment is seeing them light up and hearing their questions just bubbling out, and how I see get that same big smile on their face that I get in discovering and thinking they're also one step closer to whatever their highest goals are. That to me, that was what becoming an astronaut always meant to me, was that it was going to be my highest and best achievement and be the hardest thing that I could ever do. And so now if I can help other people get closer and again, see that value of education, inspiring them to be their best, that is hopefully the gift that I can bring back to everyone here.
Speaking of gifts, obviously this experience for you was a gift, and it's changed your life for the better. Most people who go on the trip will need to pay for it, and that's the deal. That's what's extraordinary, is that there is now this commercial opportunity out there. You can buy this bucket list experience. I have to ask, how much did it cost?
For me, it was priceless.
That's a very good answer.
And I mean, literally, there's almost no dollar value that you can put, and it's different for everyone. And
Okay.
we've seen a lot of different paths to that. So there isn't one answer to that question.
Yeah.
So not to give an unsatisfying answer, but there isn't just one number. And I often think about things in terms of it's not the cost, what is the value, and what is the return on the investment? So again, the way I got here, any number one of my businesses, either, working as a physician, helping healing people, teaching in my course business, doing the other consulting work that I've done, any one of those things would have generated the funds to do this. And that's because of the value that I help create in the world. That's the way that I think about it. I also think about a legacy that it creates. So for my children who, have seen me do this, and for the other lives that I've touched, that's the true value.
I mean, it sounds almost crazy, but my last question, which I wrote down before I started this interview, my last question is, would you recommend it? So, I mean, let's roll with that question, even though I could probably guess the answer.
I bet you could guess the answer, yeah. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. It's the most profound thing that I've ever had the opportunity to do. It has drastically changed the way that I view life. And when I was making the decision to go, it was really about my daughters who, I want to raise strong, intelligent, independent women that are open to the opportunities life has in store for them. And it was really a moment of, okay, well, now here's your opportunity to model the behavior that you want them to take.
Yeah.
So yes, it's worth it. And yes, you should go. And absolutely, I would recommend it.
You would recommend it. And I mean,
100%. And I also know people for whom they don't want to have this experience. It's not the one that is for them, their peak experience. So I think you're going to get a lot of different answers, but
yes.
There are a lot of us who want to go. And that's the great thing, is seeing this open up for that opportunity that I hope as many people who want to do this and experience it can. We know that that's going to have a profound effect on how we see the world, take away the borders, and see the planet and humanity as a whole.
Austin, Dr. Green, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much indeed. You've definitely opened my eyes to space travel in this context. So thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Dubai Eye 103.8.
Join the conversation.